Okay, so I don't know how I have uh, somehow in the past 3 weeks done this weird thing where I uploaded the same video twice. I have no explanation for that. It just with the workflow I have, it doesn't make sense, and it makes me think that somehow Camtasia is just uploading old versions of the same file, or like old for whatever I had in the editor before. Anyways, here we have this. We're going to do our first Manim program. So I've opened up my Anaconda prompt, and by the way, I saw there were several questions in the discussion forums. I will get to answering those today, Tuesday. So I've opened my Anaconda prompt. This is what I have here. So what I'm going to do now, I've gone to my directory, the Manim 696 directory, and I'm going to activate my environment, which is called Manim 696. Okay, so now you can tell I'm in Manim 696. Okay, and so now I'm going to open up Jupyter Notebook. And so what I'm going to do, in this project, or in this video, I mean, I'm going to go over this document, part of this document here, which I left a link to in the modules, and I'm just going to go over a very simple Manim project to help you understand how Manim works. What you have, what some of the things Manim can do are, and things like that. So I'm going to start with some import statements. So import, Manim is a package, so we need to import it. So I'm going to do import, from Manim import star. So I'm going to run this. So one thing, so what this says is I'm importing the entire Manim package, and it should tell me the Manim version number when I run this, or after it runs. So this is the version here. Now one thing that you might get nervous about, you might want to do things like import Manim as man, or something like that. Or let's do MN, okay, for Manim, or MA for mathematical animation, which is what Manim stands for. And then all of the things in Manim, we would have to proceed with an MA dot something. So that's something that you might consider doing if you have a whole lot of import statements. But for us right now, this is what we have. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of lines here. So I'm going to write config dot media width equals 75%. Okay, and what this does, we're going to be playing videos. We're going to be creating videos and playing them, and the width of the media is going to be 75% the width of this line here. Config is a config file for Manim. Config.verbosity, and we're going to tell it to let us know whenever it's giving a warning where maybe it can compile it correctly, but it thinks we've made a mistake. So those are the two settings that we're given there. So I'm going to run this again. Whoops. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to look at our first scene. Okay. So scenes. So Manim has a class. Remember, we wrote classes before. Manim has a class called scene. And we're going to write our own scenes, which are going to be classes that inherit from the scene class. So in other words, imagine you've written a class called, you've written classes before. Imagine you've written a class, and now you want to use that information, but you want to write another class that is a specific type of that parent class. So the classic example would be like automobiles. I'm going to write a class called automobiles. What are the things that an automobile can do? It can drive, it can blow its horn. What are some of the attributes of an automobile? Its color, number of doors, that sort of thing. Okay, so all automobiles have these features. But then I might want to select might want to make something called a subclass of automobile, is a specific type of automobile that has features that not all other automobiles have. So for example, motorcycle might be one of these subclasses. So I make a new class called motorcycle. It would be what's called a subclass of the automobile class. And so now maybe the motorcycle class can have an option, like they could have an attribute, something like the color of the handlebars. It's probably not realistic, but you get the idea. Not all automobiles have handlebars, but motorcycles do. So it wouldn't be appropriate to have a handlebar attribute for a car or a truck, but it would make sense to have a handlebar attribute for a motorcycle. So we create a subclass called motorcycle that's going to have all of the attributes of the parent class as well as some new attributes. That's what's happening here with the scene class. The creators of Manim, the writers of Manim, which, like I said, started with Grant Sanderson, have written a class called scene, and the scene can do things like display various mathematical animations. We're going to create a subclass that is our exact class that we want to do for our scene that we want to create. So I'm going to start off class. We're going to call it circle to square, and we're going to put in parentheses here scene. Okay, so what this means is we are going to, from the scene class within Manim, circle to square is going to be a subclass. Now, if all of that was kind of confusing, just start off by writing this. Circle to square is going to be the name of the class that we're writing, and the scene thing, you can just think about it as magic now. Okay, just think of it as something that you have to write. Okay, circle to square, this name could be anything you want. It could be, Cowboy Gig'em Texas Aggies. It could be circle to square. It could be my scene. It could be whatever. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to write a method called construct. And remember, all methods take self as an argument. So we're going to write a method called construct. And basically, when you run the command from the command terminal, which we're not going to do, but when you run the command, to construct this scene called circle to square, the Manim command will go to this method here and run what's in the method and do what's in the method. Okay, but so that it has a special name called construct. So we're going to call this method construct. And what we want to do is we want to start with a blue circle that transforms smoothly into a green square. So there's going to be a blue circle and it's going to transform smoothly into a green square. That is, it's not just going to be blue circle and then all of a sudden a green square. It's going to kind of do a nice transformation from a blue circle into a green square. So the fundamental objects in Manim are called mobjects, objects, math objects, or Manim objects. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. But math objects, mobjects, and the mobjects are the things that know how to transform themselves nicely into other mobjects. So one mobject can transform itself nicely into another mobject. So the first mobject that we're going to create is a blue circle. So the blue circle, there is a class in Manim called circle, and it takes in some arguments, some optional arguments. We're going to say the color is blue. Whoops. And there's a whole different, you can use hex colors or a whole bunch of different colors you can look up on the Manim website. And then fill opacity is going to be equal to 0.5. Okay, so that's how opaque it's going to be. From a scale of like nothing at all to solid blue, 0 to 1. And then we're going to create something called a green square. Green square is going to be, well, there is a square class in Manim. We're going to say the color of this is equal to green. And I guess just to see what the different opacity looks like, we're going to say it's the opacity is equal to 0.8. Okay, so now what we're going to do, so I've created these mobjects called a blue circle and a green square, but nothing has been done with them. They're just created in memory, but nothing has been done. So now I'm going to do this self.play create blue circle. Okay, so again, play is a method in the scene class. Okay, so we don't have to write that. Every mobject or every scene, everything that inherits from scene has this method called play, so we don't have to write that. And there's also a class in Manim called create, and it creates whatever the object is here. And in this case, I think it's going to like trace the circle out like this in blue. Okay, and now we're going to do self.weight, and I'm going to put 2. So what's going to happen here, Manim is going to create an animation that will draw a blue circle, and then will just do nothing for 2 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this, and then the green square is not going to show up yet. I'm going to go ahead and run this so you can see what it looks like. But note what happens if I just run it, nothing happens. Okay, so what I have to do here, I need to do %% Manim dash QM circle to square. Okay, so what is going on here? If we were to use Manim from a a command terminal, we would write this command in the command terminal. Excuse me. We would write this command in the command terminal. It would activate the Manim program, and then it would run, like within the Manim program, it would run this command here, which means to construct this scene and make a video and show it to us. Okay, so what is it like? What does each part do? Well, the circle to square corresponds to this. Once Manim knows you want to do something with the circle to square class, it's going to find the construct method in that class and do what it says. The .qm, I forget what the Q means. I think it means to show, to actually show the video instead of just like give you instead of just save the file somewhere. But the M means medium quality. There's L, M, and H. H is like whatever the best high def thing is. The percentages here tell Jupyter that this is a command that needs to be run on a command terminal outside, and there's connections between Manim and Jupyter that make all of this work. Okay, so now when I run this, underneath here, I should get a video screen. It's going to create a blue circle, and then it's going to wait for 2 seconds. So it should be like a 3-second video, and it should repeat on loops. So, well. I misspelled. S-Q-U-A-R-E. Okay, so now when you run it, oh boy. Oh, so probably some of you guys have been screaming at the screen for a while. This is not spelled correctly. C-I-R-C-L-E, circle. All right, let's try this again. Now it looks like it's doing something. Okay, so now we have this. So it should just, I think it'll just play on loop. So I'll put my mouse here. Takes about a second to draw the circle, and then we have the wait period. Okay, and now all the green square is just something in memory, but we haven't added it to the scene yet to make it do anything. Okay, so now let's change that. Let's add it to the scene. I'm gonna pause this because that's gonna get distracting. Okay, so now again, I don't just want there to I don't want it to just go from a blue circle to a square. What I want it to do is I want it to transform nicely from a blue circle to a square. So I'm going to do self.play transform blue circle green square. And so now again, there is a class in Manim called transform. It's going to transform the blue circle nicely into a green square. And there's a whole bunch of other different parameters we could pass here, like about how long we want the transformation to take and things like that. But for now, we'll just keep it as simple as we possibly can. And I'm going to have it wait for about 2 seconds, or wait for 2 seconds again. So each one of these things I think will take about a second, and then it'll wait for 2 seconds. So I think this should be about a 6-second video. The first 3 seconds are going to be exactly like this. It's going to be the blue circle being created. And then it's going to transform from the blue circle. It's going to create the blue circle, wait for 2 seconds, and then transform nicely from the blue circle to the green square. So, and then wait for 2 seconds, and then repeat all over again. So let's try this. Okay, what did I do now? Wow. Having a hard time spelling. Blue circle, and now transform nicely into a green square. Okay, now obviously, there is a lot of programming. There's a lot of code that goes into all of this that we're not having to do. We just tell Manim to create a blue circle. We just, have a blue circle and a green square. We tell Manim to draw the blue circle for us. Then we tell it to make the green square and, you know, transform it nicely. So yes, this is probably, if you're new to this is kind of a hurdle even to get to this point. But just think about all of the stuff that we're not having to do. I mean, this is, you know, hundreds and hundreds of lines of code, and really thinking through how to make this stuff work here. Lots of knowledge about displaying video and graphics and things like that. And we're basically having to do none of it. We just tell Manim what we want it to do, and it does it for us. Okay, so yes, there is probably somewhat of a steep learning curve to this. We're going to take it very easy in this class, because making animations, even with these tools, making animations is still very difficult. But it's like much less difficult than if we had to make the animations from scratch. And if we get good at it, we can actually make very good animations and do other things as well. Okay, so that's it for this video. Sorry that again, I screwed up somehow in getting the links wrong. Okay, that's it.